I can't help but think this over and over. It keeps coming to my mind as to why people do what they do. Like, why people hesitate when it comes to, just even understanding or accepting what life really is all about. We look at all the stories, right? Look at all the stories that are from everything from patriarchal to everything we tell ourselves to help ourselves understand is just out putting the car away in the garage and noticing that I have a car. And, what does that mean? I mean, how do we justify that? Or how does our mind fit around the idea that we have a car and we're part of an energy and a creation and a flow of life, and that we actually are here and then we're gone, and our energy and our beingness will be something else, and it's just a perfect flow of life. It doesn't hold any one particular thing. So for some reason, the lack of definition there, the lack of something to hold on to, if you will, I don't know, but it seems to me like that might be something that holds people back from letting the flow of life, the reality, the seeming reality of it all, take over or let it be, because we have to create some sort of story to go along with the fact that we have cars and a president of the United States, and we have churches, and we have buildings and businesses that are amazing, and computers that do a crazy amount of stuff, and even this cell phone that I have that can do all these things, and we see all these things, the houses we build and all these things, and it creates this mindset that there has to be something organized in a way that we see organization. We see it to be everything to be this certain way, and what's interesting is that the stories that we created our lives. We can actually see our lives are creating the whole experience, or the stories. Had to check on something there, but because I was getting distracted, but basically the stories that we create this environment. So we created a story, and then that story we think that's the other way around. We think that because a society believes that there is a God, there has to be a being, there has to be some sort of a guy behind all this, some sort of a personality or something that they can relate with. And then that understanding of that power over, or that being over us, creates the filter down effect of we have power and beings over each other in this life, and therefore there's somebody above and somebody below, or however you want to run with it. But basically you can see that when a person sees the flow of life and how it all works together, and they see that everything moves perfectly in and out of everything else, and how our being, our energy, our spirit, our intelligence, how all of that just flows together and flows in and out and has no barriers or boundaries, no superiority, none of the trappings of mentality trappings that we have in our lives, none of the things that we hold ourselves to. When we see all of those things disperse and go away in that place of energy, we start to see what was added on. What was added on to that creates what we are now. And then what's kind of cool about it is all of a sudden you start to give less precedence or less importance to the stuff that man created. You can get a little stressed about stuff, but you don't get really stressed about it. Nothing gets that deep, because that it's really not deep. It's really just a story, and we're just participating in the story, and it can't be that big a deal. So hopefully that makes some sort of sense, where I think what holds people back, again, from really experiencing the true energy of life is everything that's around them. And they see all that and they go, oh, this is all really important. And they really get into participating in it, and to the point that they don't even remember anything about anything spiritual or energy, or if they do, they give it some sort of a name. They have a story behind it. I guess that's one of the differences right there, is that when it comes to seeing the flow and energy of life and everything, it's an experience. And what's interesting about it the most is that one of the reasons I feel like it's so pure is that the minute I really start to try to give some sort of definition or story behind it, it starts to take away from it. It starts to pull away, and I start to feel that tightening, and like, oh, don't go there. It is an experience. It's simply that. Can't be described really well. It can't be made up to be something more or added in as an ingredient to something else. You can hear when people do that, when they're talking about things like that as soon as they do, and I've done it myself, even on these recordings, as soon as you do that, you'll notice there's a tightening that goes on, and or something where things just doesn't feel quite right. It's like you can feel me or somebody else, you could feel that adding on, but you can hear the parts that are just pure, that don't have that. And you can see that too, because your mind doesn't get all tripped up in it. Like, you ever hear somebody telling you a story and they're talking and your mind kind of gets caught up in it. It's like, it's a good story and it sounds good and it feels good because it's handling all of the ego's needs, right? Or it's comforting you or soothing you in some way that is simply part of a story. Do you want to feel good about yourself? There is no such thing. As soon as you start to try to feel good about yourself, then you find out that there really is no such thing. I can tell you that the best I've ever felt about myself is when I didn't feel I had a self. Interestingly, people try to kill themselves because they believe there's a self. If they understood, that have that experience of no self, then there's nothing to kill. It's really interesting. I've been through all of that in my own life, the ups and downs, and I know that feeling of just like utter despair and, where you just feel like there's really no other option to happiness. Let's try something different. I can totally understand why people do that, but there really is nothing to kill. It simply becomes part of the flow, again, of life. Everything is so diluted, where we think everything is so concentrated, right? We think, this is me, I am here, this is me now, and I am this entity and this being, and this is, all me. It's not like that. It's completely diluted, totally dispersed. So we're not a concentrated thing, we're completely dispersed and inside of a total flow of energy and life. Anyway, lots to think about. Talk to you later.